Hey everybody, this is JDGaming back today with a pseudo-classic Cyber Dragon deck for you guys. I've been playing since a long time ago, like since the beginning of the game. But the GX era was one of the most memorable times for me just because of how Yu-Gi-Oh became a fad in my circle of friends, my classmates, like everyone was playing Yu-Gi-Oh at the time. So I fondly remember the elemental heroes that you may have seen the profile for, but also the cyber dragons. And while I don't think it's necessarily a great idea to go entirely fusion, especially because of like the new support that they've come up for cyber dragons on the Xyz end in Cyber Dragon Nova, I did think it'd be pretty cool to come up with a modernized kind of classic style semi-competitive, mainly casual Cyber Dragon deck to toy around with, and I've been having a blast with this really fast-paced strategy. So I will be doing a deck profile on the build that I've kind of worked on and found to be something that I'm happy with. Again, this is something that I've built towards my metagame, so it's something that basically works against the decks that I play against in my circle of friends. So that might not be, a high-level tournament level or whatever, but hopefully you guys will at least get some sort of ideas from this. Maybe you guys can build your own casual Cyber Dragon decks to fit your own play style and wherever you are playing. Optimize it to make it the most effective. But basically, just like normal, I will be doing this kind of article style. It's going to be a let's build for this deck. I'm going to go through step by step the different cards and my thought process as to why things are in here. And at the very end, I will have an alphabetical list that you're used to of the entire profile that you can skip to by clicking the Curry Bandit, not the Power Bond today, because Curry Bandits are a little speed devil. He'll take you right to that deck profile if you don't want to listen to anything else. But pretty much this is it for the prologue. You can either stay and see all the different card choices, or you can go ahead and skip to the end of the video. But I do invite you guys to check out the meat of the video before you go down and comment on some of the stuff, because a lot of times when people ask, like, why the heck aren't you playing this? Well, I told you why in the main video, or like, why am I playing this? It's all there. So thanks, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. The first step in building any deck is, of course, to establish the core theme, and today we are playing Cyber Dragons, mainly because ever since I heard about the Chimera-Tech Rampage Dragon from the OCG, I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I wanted for classic fusion-style Cyber Dragon, so this is what I wanted to build around. For those of you unfamiliar with it, it has the same stats as Cyber Dragon in that it's a level 5, 2100, 2600 defense, or 2100 attack, 2600, or 1600 defense, excuse me, fusion monster, so it's pretty much Cyber Dragon, and then you need any two or more Cyber Dragon monsters, so monsters with Cyber Dragon in its name. You can only fusion summon it by using the above materials, but then this thing can attack up to 3 times if you send the light machine type monsters from your deck to the graveyard, up to 2 per turn. You get an additional attack. Let's just redo this entire section. So to build any deck, the first step is going to be to establish the core, the theme, basically why are we building this deck? This Chimera-Tech Rampage Dragon is pretty much the reason I wanted to build this deck back a couple of years ago, or whenever, maybe it was a year ago, when Chimera-Tech Rampage Dragon was first announced for the OCG. I looked at this thing and thought, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I need to revive classic fusion Cyber Dragons. For those of you unfamiliar with it, it is a level 5 fusion monster with 2100 attack and 1600 defense, so it's pretty much mimicking Cyber Dragon in that regard. You need any 2 Cyber Dragon monsters to be able to fusion summon this thing, and you must fusion summon it using the materials, so no instant fusion or anything. But you won't want to use instant fusion with this, because when it's fusion summoned, you can pop your opponent's back row up to the number of materials you use for it, so it comes in with a built-in Twin Twisters to help clear out your opponent's threats and push for game. And then as if that weren't enough, you can go once per turn, send light machine type monsters from your deck to the graveyard, and then for each one, up to 2 of them, you gain an additional attack. So this thing can attack 3 times in a turn for 6,300 attack. So basically we're going to run a pair of these, and then we're going to find some ways that we can OTK the opponent. But first of all, we're going to need to get to the summoning condition of this guy. So to do that, we will be running triple Curry Bandit. Curry Bandit is amazing because it lets us grab a spell or trap straight from the deck by excavating 5 in our end phase. It's a dark monster, so that's actually pretty interesting because we'll go and get some chaos support later with all of our light monsters. But the main thing is we can grab our fusion spells immediately and have one of our most powerful fusion spells loaded immediately. So we actually are going to be playing 3 copies of Overload Fusion. This thing is an old school GX classic that says you can fusion summon a dark machine type monster using materials in your field or graveyard as materials. but banish them instead of sending them to the graveyard because they may already be in the graveyard. So this thing lets you go and take all of your yarded Cyber Dragons to bring out a Chimeric Rampage Dragon, who will then go and blow up your opponent's back row and push for 63 on a blank field. And the reason Curry Bandit's so amazing is you get to see 5 cards to try to pick up one of these things, which helps dig real quick. But then you load so that you have the Overload Fusion ready to go as well. And then in addition to that, we're playing the classic Power Bond. This spell basically is polymerization for machine fusions, but you double the attack of the monster that you summon, and then you take the original attack of that monster as damage during the end phase if you don't kill. Back in the day, if you went for something like Cyber Twin, you took it 28. If you somehow went for Cyber End Dragon, you took 4,000 points, which is a lot of damage for this thing. But since this thing only has 2,100 attack, you actually double it to 42. It can now attack 3 times for over 12,000 damage, and then you only take 21 in the end phase, which is really, really powerful. The only thing with Power Bond is we're going to need to make sure we have enough Cyber Dragons that we can play from our field and hand, because that's where this thing fuses from. So 6 fusion spells that we have easy access to with the Curry Bandit, and then some central core with the Curry Bandits for infrastructure as well. Of course, Cyber Dragons did not just get Chimeric Rampage Dragon back in that OCG release and now the TCG. We also got this bugger. We got CyDra Infinity. I do realize this is a Korean proxy of the card, but it's just a little souvenir from my trip, and really I don't see a reason to invest a ton in a casual deck like this, so it'll do just fine. But pretty much, if you can summon your Cyber Dragon Nova by using 2 level 5 machines, then you can immediately change it into a Cyber Dragon Nova, or a Cyber Dragon Infinity, excuse me. You guys are probably familiar with this. Pretty much, you get to negate a card once per turn and destroy it by detaching a material, and then you get to absorb an attack position monster on either side of the board and make it into a material. So you gain 200 attack for each of those materials. You usually start off with the 2 materials on this guy plus Nova, so that's 3 materials. I mean, that's going to be a 27 beater. You can add on to it, have a Quasar effect every single turn. This card is simply amazing. So this is just another direction that we can take this deck, a rank 5 toolbox as well, and we'll be fleshing out some of that. We also have some additional effects on Nova. You can actually banish a Cyber Dragon from your field or your hand to have this guy double its attack essentially to 4,200. You can also detach a material to special summon a Cyber Dragon from your graveyard, so then you have 2 attackers, maybe another Xyz material because of that. And you have a third effect. If this thing dies, so if your opponent decides to block off your attempt to use this effect, or even, I think if they Solemn Strike it, because it says if this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard. Yes, if this card in your possession is destroyed and sent to your graveyard, you get to go and special summon a machine-type fusion monster from your extra deck. So that means a free Cyber End or whatever, because it's not a fusion summon, you don't need to have the proper materials, and you get right past the restrictions. So very interesting card. Mainly, of course, we are playing it for the Infinity, but these are some of the other ways that we will win this game. So now that we have the infrastructure down for our deck, we pretty much need to figure out how can we get out some fusion monsters and how can we get Xyz monsters. Not necessarily both in the same game, but we want to have easy access to either option so that we can take whichever path is most efficient depending on our hand. Of course, we'll be starting off with 3 copies of the original Cyber Dragon, classic 21 beater with the ability to summon itself if your opponent has a monster and you don't. This thing is actually really powerful for Xyz summoning, in addition to just being a free target off of that Curry Bandit. And it's something that you can use as a Cyber Dragon from your hand as well. That's pretty important for Power Bond, because as you'll see, if you play this deck, the fact that a lot of the new Cyber Dragons count as Cyber Dragon only on the field or graveyard means they work phenomenally with Overload Fusion, but a little less with Power Bond. So having the 3 Cyber Dragons, I think, is a must in this strategy. We're playing 3 copies of Cyber Dragon Core. This thing counts itself, as I said, as a Cyber Dragon when it is on the field or in the graveyard. And when it's normal summoned, it is a mandatory trigger effect that will fetch you a cyber spell or trap. So it's pretty much Stratoses you for a utility card. It's a little toolbox card for the deck, which is really nice. And then if this thing is in the graveyard, if you control no monsters while your opponent controls a monster, i.e. Cyber Dragon's summoning requirements, you can banish this from your grave to special summon a Cyber Dragon from your deck, Cyber Dragon monster. So all of a sudden, you can start the board with a Cyber Dragon at level 5. You can go for your other Cyber Dragons. Basically, this is an ultimate toolbox card for the deck. Unfortunately, it is level 2, so we can't 1-for-1 it, and it doesn't have the best stats, but we could support it with some hand traps so we don't die. And use it to its full potential. Again, because it's a Cyber Dragon on the field and grave, I mean, if this is the one thing we normal, we can Overload Fusion or Power Bond. If this is in the grave, you can Power Bond. You can use this to fetch another Cyber Dragon. Very versatile card. We're playing 2 Cyber Repair Plant. Some people say play 3 because it is the rota of the deck, but the problem with Cyber Repair Plant is because you need to have a Cyber Dragon monster in your graveyard to activate it, it's not live turn 1 most of the time unless you're playing some really weird thing. I mean, I explored Brilliant Fusion. It is a viable way of playing this strategy, but I found too many problems with it in terms of making it a consistent OTK deck. And as a result, I decided let's not play Brilliant Fusion for this particular build. And in that case, you're really only wanting to get Cyber Repair Plant off of the Cyber Dragon core. Ideally, turn 1, you'd summon core, fetch your Cyber Repair Plant, and then you would have immediate activation requirements. Or you Curry Bandit the core away, you fetch the Repair Plant, you can do that. Basically, since core is mandatory especially, and these are the only 2 Cyber Dragon Speller Traps I play, I didn't want to play 3 of them and clog with the Repair Plant for its summoning condition, but I wanted to have enough for the core. So I think 3-to-2 ratio is good there. Then for Cyber Dragons, the last 3 we have are Cyber Dragon 3, which I'm told is 3 in German. This is an 1800 attack level 4 monster that lets you turn all of your Cyber Dragons on the board into a level 5 monster when it is normal summoned. So cool thing with that is it turns itself and core into a level 5. For Xyz summoning, the only problem is you can only use it for machine type monsters, or like you can only summon machine type monsters for the rest of the turn, which used to put a huge hamper on this card. But with the advent of not only Nova but Infinity, that actually becomes a viable play because now you can just bring out a 27 beater that gets even stronger and blocks your opponent's cards. So very powerful rank 5 card. And then we can go and use this as we would with core, as a Cyber Dragon monster for our fusion summons as well. So 9 Cyber Dragon monsters, 2 searchers for that, and all cards that we basically want to see off of Curry Bandit. So that is our Cyber Dragon lineup. And then finally, for the main plays, we have 3 instant fusion. This will let us bring out our Panzer Dragon at level 5. We're only playing 1 copy of this thing, so this will let us fulfill the light machine requirement for a variety of Xyz summons, so we can go Light Monsters for Constellar Pleiades, we can go Machine Monster for Cyber Dragon Nova, and if we happen to just have no materials, then Cyber Dragon, or rather not Cyber Dragon, Panzer Dragon can just go and destroy a card if it dies from Instant Fusion's end phase effect. So overall, very versatile card. Reason I play one of these is twofold. First, Instant Fusion you play 3 because you want to see it for the early game. You are OTK in this strategy and usually won't last long enough to see 3. You can Curry Bandit to fetch the instant fusions anyway, and mill extras if you do see them. And then the Panzer Dragon itself can be recycled by Cyber Repair Plant's second ability, should you decide to do that instead of fetching a Cyber Dragon, or if you already have a bunch yarded, you can actually just recycle Panzer Dragon as well. But in testing, I found you only really need 1, and with the added recovery ability of this, I just think 1 is all I need for my strategy. But feel free to test that and see how that works in your meta. Next up then is the support lineup. So to flesh out the main deck, we have a bunch of support cards that will help make sure we get our OTKs consistently and make sure we don't die in our process of setting up with Curry Bandit or Cyber Dragon Core. So we play 3 Yugioh. This is one of my favorite new cards from last year. It is a 1700 attack hand trap that says during either player's battle step, so basically when an attack is being declared with a monster or right about to be, you could special summon this card from your hand, gain 1,000 life if you do. You can only use that summoning effect once per turn, but it's during either player's turn, which is pretty cool. And then if he's on your board at any time, you can tribute him to power up one of your monsters for an entire turn cycle by 1,000 points. So what does that do? Well, first of all, he can do 1,700 damage out of nowhere. He'll just come to the board after you've cleared your opponent's field and attacked some, gain you 1,000 attack, or 1,000 life, you get attack for 17. If you have any additional monsters, you can then tribute him to power that up by 1,000. But the main reason we're playing Yugioh is because we can use him with Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon for an easy OTK. So if we get Yugioh out, let's say he kills a monster, so we're not even counting him, you can then tribute him off, power up this Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon to 3,100 attack, and remember, because of Rampage Dragon's effect, you can easily attack 3 times with this guy, so that's 3,100 attack, attacking 3 times for 9,300 damage. It suddenly means Yugioh turns Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon single-handedly into a win condition. And while I would say, well, that's so close to 8,000 that you can't necessarily run over all the monsters, well, yes, that's why we're going to have some other support cards along the way, but also that's also why we're going to have the fusion summon of this thing so that we can normal summon other things. Like Yugioh special summons, this is a fusion summon, it's just special, so we might even be able to sneak in another normal summon, which is amazing, because we don't have to worry nearly as much about the opponent's defenses. And of course, the fact that you kill back row with that Chimeric Rampage Dragon means it's a little easier to push even further. One limiter removal, this is a classic in CyDra Dragon decks. Double the attack of all your machines, so this will make your Rampage Dragon 4,200 attack, still able to attack 3 times. It also powers up your Cyber Dragons really well, which is really cool. So overall, I think limiter removal is still worth playing in this deck because you do want ways to get that Chimeric Rampage Dragon up strong enough. And there are times that because this is a damage step attack boost, you might be able to juke your opponent into attacking your guy and then just kill them through that as well. So limiter removal is pretty cool. You can use it really well defensively with Cyber Dragon, because if you just go summon Cyber Dragon, set this, if this doesn't get Twin Twistered, which I guess nowadays is kind of a big hope there, but your opponent's entire field will get blocked off by a 4,200 most of the time, and then if this dies, it's just material in the grave for Overload Fusion. So very good setup with this deck. It gets everything you need it to do during your turn, but then also works defensively. So very flexible card there. Too honest, there are times, again, you will rely on the Cyber Dragons, the Infinity, or some of the Xyz monsters that are light as well. And as a result, you might want Honest. I've found Honest to be a very good addition to the deck for more OTK potential and defensive power. This is also a good thing to have turn 1 if you do happen to go Cyber Dragon Core. Since Cyber Dragon Core has a few hundred attack, I think it's like 400 attack? Yeah, 400 attack points. You can Honest this thing, have 400 more than your opponent. It won't be like a Cyber Valley where it just crashes or something. I guess Cyber Valley is a weird example. Like Effect Failure, like there are times when in some decks I'm just like, well, what if you Honest an Effect Failure and you just 1-for-1 your opponent, but you lose 2 cards? I don't know, it's bad. But in this deck it works. We have, to help clear the opponent's monster cards, the 2 Dark Holes and the Raigeki. Reason for this is Raigeki's obvious. You get to push your opponent's monsters all out of the way. Dark Hole's a little less obvious, but the reason I play this is because if you can clear your opponent's board, or largely clear your opponent's board, you can easily Overload Fusion for the Cyber Dragon, Chimeric Rampage Dragon rather, and then that gets a bunch of free shots. When you combine it with these support cards, you can then push for game. So that's the main reason we're playing the Dark Holes. I do realize if you Dark Hole your opponent's board, you can't drop normal Cyber Dragon or use Cyber Dragon Core. That is an unfortunate thing, but in testing I just found Dark Hole is really nice because you get rid of your opponent's monsters so that they have even less of a resistance to you, because you take care of back row with the Chimera Tech, but you want to make sure you take care of the monsters as well. We're playing 2 Twin Twisters because I don't want to face back row when I'm playing this deck and get stopped by the opponent. Because this is an OTK deck, you do want to see this as quickly as possible, but the reason I'm playing 2 for the moment, and I felt that was fine, is because when you have Curry Bandit fetching this out, and you have you only really have to stop Floodgates and Solemns with Twin Twisters because you have the built-in Twin Twisters in the Chimeric Rampage Dragon. 2 just seems to be enough most of the time. I mean, definitely side the 3rd, but I don't think you need to main more than 2. It'll depend on the meta, but in my meta game I just found it's fine playing 2. I won't be swamped too badly. Then we have, this is one of my favorite decks ever, 1 Electromagnetic Turtle. So this thing, if it's in your graveyard, you can banish it from your graveyard during your opponent's battle phase to have the entire battle phase end regardless of your field setup. So this thing's amazing because since it's a light machine, you can go and banish this, or you could send this to the grave with the Chimeric Rampage Dragon to give it an additional attack. And then if your opponent tries to kill your Rampage Dragon because you failed, you protect your Rampage Dragon, and all of a sudden you can drop the Yugioh next turn. You might be able to drop something like Infinity to absorb your opponent's monster. You might be able to go for any variety of outs. Raigeki, you might be able to draw into limiter removal. This thing buys you a free turn off of the Chimeric Rampage Dragon, and makes sure that your monster doesn't die in battle, because 21's pretty darn weak, and since it's dark, you can't even Honest the thing. Electromagnetic Turtle has been really fixing that problem. Only thing is, this thing is once per duel. If this thing were not limited to once per duel, I would be running 2 or 3 of this thing, because it's just so easy to dump a pair of these instead of a Cyber Dragon to get the Chimera Tech. On that note, if you're playing this deck, you will want to dump the Electromagnetic Turtle in addition to a Cyber Dragon Core for most of your summons of Chimera Tech, mainly because you do want to have a backup plan in Cyber Dragon Core, and then, of course, Electromagnetic Turtle for the reasons I just stated. And then the final pieces of tech, we have a BLS, because with all the light monsters and then some of the darks in Curry Bandit and Jurigato, we can easily bring out BLS as an additional 3,000 attacker, help force through back row, help kill monsters, get rid of monsters by banishing, and just push for more damage. Really no reason not to play this thing in this deck. 2 Max C, basically because in testing I found that Valor may stop the opponent, but this deck really does want to see its combo pieces really quick, so I did prefer Max C in the main. That's pretty much it. It's a hand trap that can work depending on your meta. It works in mine, and you draw into your combo pieces, so it's a little more tolerable than Valor in this strategy. And finally, we play, instead of Valor's, 2 copies of Breakthrough Skill. This is basically because you have the additional ability to block Floodgate monsters during your turn. So, like, I play against Frog Monarchs, not like new monarchs, but like frog monarchs a lot. So Vanity's Fiend, Majesty's Fiend, shut them down with this thing if you can't dark hole them, and then you can continue going off with all your plays. You can mill this thing with Curry Bandit as well, which is really great, because then you can immediately have it live either to your hand or live next turn when you need to go off. So that's why 2 of these are in here. The extra deck then we'll just flesh out real fast. We're playing 1 Chimera tech. This is if you want to play against Cosmos or any machines, but in general I just find it's nice having 1 because no one expects it, but it does solve some problems for you if your opponent's playing an annoying machine. 1 Over Dragon. I was considering not playing this, but then I found out there are some situations where you will want to make this because the attack cap on the Chimera tech. Rampage Dragon. Rampage Dragon's 2100 attack means without support, it's kind of bad. This thing, you can just overload all your machines that you don't want, get 800 attack for each one, and although it'll end up being your only attacker because you clear your board, the fact that you get to go maybe 2400 attack, maybe 3200 attack, or whatever, you get a higher attack stat with this and can attack monsters up to that number of materials, so it helps you get over walls that you can't get over with just 2100 attack points. So that's why he's in here. He's the alternate dark monster to summon. We have 1 Cyber Twin Dragon. This you can summon quite easily as an alternative for a Chimeritic Rampage, and the main reason you would want to with Power Bond is because, well, with Power Bond you'd have 5600 attack, you can Honest it, you can Jurigato, like there's so many things you can do with this thing. I do recommend it. And then Cyber End Dragon's in here because there are times my opponent will decide to Solemn Strike my Cyber Dragon Nova, or like if I think my opponent has Strike Set, I'll intentionally go Nova, do something with the Nova, maybe activate its effect or try attacking with it or something, scare the opponent so then they'll activate a removal. If they kill it, you get a free Cyber End, so why not? For the Xyz monsters then, we have 1 Castel in case you do get 2 copies of Dry on the board. That's possible if you normal Dry after you special summon Dry with a core. I mean, it's just in here as a problem solver just in case. It's not always necessary. But then there's also Honest and Electromagnetic Turtle as level 4s as well. So like, I guess it happens once in a while. I just decided I needed 1. We have Durandal because this is a good Floodgate type monster. We have 1 Pleiades because that's another good Floodgate type monster. Volcasaurus to push for damage. Shark Fortress to push for damage by letting anything attack twice. So that's awesome if you get like your Cyber Dragon to attack twice with it. And then you have, of course, Gaia Dragon so that you can get Volcasaurus to do damage and then attack for more piercing damage as well. If you watched the video in its entirety, thanks again. And if you have any questions after the alphabetical deck profile, then feel free to check the previous section of the video for some of my reasoning as to why some of the card choices are in there, and then afterwards feel free to go down in the comments section and then have at it with the deck as well. So let's go through this. We'll go through the main deck first. We're starting off with a BLS Envoy of the beginning, 3 copies of the original Cyber Dragon, 3 copies of Dry, 3 copies of Core, 1 Electromagnetic Turtle, 2 Honest, 3 Jurigato, 3 Curry Bandit, and 2 Max C for the monster card lineup. Then for the spells, we have 2 Cyber Repair Plant, 2 Dark Hole, 3 Instant Fusion, Limiter Removal, 3 Overload Fusion, 3 Power Bond, 1 Raigeki, 2 Twin Twisters, and then for the traps, just a pair of Breakthrough Skill. For the extra deck, we have 2 copies of the Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon, 1 Panzer Dragon, 1 Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon, 1 Chimera Tech Over Dragon, 1 Cyber Twin Dragon, a Cyber End Dragon, and that's it for our fusions. Then we have 1 Castel at rank 4. For our rank 5s, we have Artifact Durandal, Constellar Pleiades, Cyber Dragon Nova, a Cyber Dragon Infinity. I do realize this is a Korean proxy, but whatevs. We have a Volcasaurus, a Shark Fortress, and a Gaia Dragon, the Thunder Charger. So once again, let me know what you think about the deck down below. Again, for those of you who haven't watched the video, please do check out the other section if you have any questions or comments, I guess, on the choices that I made. A lot of this really is shaped by the metagame that I expect to play in. In other words, the group of friends that I tend to play with. So, you know, if I'm not preparing for like the WCQs that are going on right now, there's really no reason for me to go and build a deck towards that meta. So pretty much I just build for whatever I'm playing against, which in this case is going to be people I normally play with. So that's why it has taken the kind of odd shape that you might have seen it. And then, yeah, if you have any suggestions for different ideas that you may have tried with Cyber Dragons, or you just want to talk about the nostalgia that you have for Cyber Dragons or whatever, feel free to do that in the comment section down below. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. So thanks, guys. This is JD Gaming. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.